Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning, Mike.
One of the things we talk about all the time is many of the amateur strategies that even people who have professional backgrounds suggest to people are in fact amateur strategies.
Yeah, and you see excellent attorneys doing things that actually end up hurting families because they just don't understand the rules.
And so one of the things that we see every day is people coming into our office saying somebody told them that they should have a trust. And they're thinking that, that's what's going to solve the problem for them.
Oh, absolutely. And they're sold those things and dinners at hotels or well-meaning attorneys create them for a variety of reasons because they're great tools in the right circumstances. But in the nursing home and Medicaid world, they can be absolute disasters.
The government is paranoid about trusts. There's just no other description of it. And so you have circumstances in which people have assets which would be exempt, but for the fact that they put it in a trust.
That's a good point. The biggest exempt asset for married couples is the house, the residence. If you put it in a trust, now it counts.
Now, when you say exempt asset for a marital residence, husband and wife's alive, does that mean there's going to be a lien against it?
Absolutely not.
Do they have to sell it?
No.
And if the spouse in the nursing home dies, are they going to put a lien against it when the surviving spouse goes to sell it?
Not at all.
Not at all. And yet, so a house for a married couple is exempt whether it's owned by the husband, the wife, or owned by them jointly. But you put that house in that revocable trust that some clown at a hotel was trying to sell you, or a well-meaning attorney who does not understand medical assistance, that house is now an available resource when it would have been otherwise automatically protected.
Right. And not only that, you got to get it out. So you better not have a trust with some kind of poison pill that prevents you from doing that.
And people say, well, what kind of poison pills are there? Well, the number one poison pill saying that the spouse who joined in the creation of the trust also has to join in the revocation of the trust. And they're the one in the nursing home suffering from dementia, not capable of executing that revocation.
Yeah, and that's the single biggest problem we face is we have one of the spouses in incapacity and we can't undo it, and so we got to go through a lengthy and expensive court process.
Oh yeah, you can get it undone.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're private paying a nursing home bill when the person would have otherwise been eligible. And what we're talking about here in our practice, somewhere between 6 weeks and 3 months is the maximum that it takes to get somebody qualified in most instances. And yet that court proceeding to get that house out of the trust could take 6, 8, 12 months to get it out of there. And you're private paying a nursing home bill when you had no business private paying that nursing home bill.
Yeah, and that's the biggest point. It's not the fact that the judge is not going to sign an order, but it might take you a year to see the judge, and that costs you money.
And frankly, when you create a trust, you give rights to people like the children and so forth as beneficiaries of that trust. And we see many instances in which the judge legitimately says every person who is a potential beneficiary of that trust has to sign off.
Right. It starts to get very complicated and very technical, which means wasted time and money instead of just doing it right the first time.
And then you'll see trusts that say the right to revoke, alter, or amend the trust is personal to the person who signed it, which means their power of attorney can't sign that revocation.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest poison pills you'll see buried in the language, and not many people recognize that for what it is.
So while we basically don't like trusts, if somebody already has one, it can be modified to remove the poison pill. So even though we wouldn't have done it to begin with, you don't necessarily have to undo it, but you have to preserve the ability to undo it in the future.
Right, and so that usually means some sort of amendment to remove the bad language, put the good language in, and go forward.
But oftentimes people have expended a lot of money, particularly these ones sold at hotels, that are just absolutely useless in this environment.
Yeah, you'll see a one-size-fits-all kind of model, and it really doesn't fit anybody.
And then, of course, they have other financial resources that they put in that trust as well. And people don't realize that trusts also impede all kinds of routine day-to-day transactions. Can't get a home equity line with a house in a trust. You know, you can't get a reverse mortgage with a house in a trust. You know, just all kinds of things that actually you've impeded.
Right, and that wasn't explained to them, or it wasn't even dreamed up when the thing was being concocted.
And almost every trust that I see, the lawyer did not tell them to change the homeowner's policy to reflect that the new owner is now the trust. And so that bill's coming in the name of the individual. They don't own the house. The trust owns the house.
Right, lots of little nuances and problems that have big consequences.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to the special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Carolyn True from the Frederick County Department of Aging. Welcome to the show, Carolyn.
Thanks for having me today.
You know, we talk about that area agencies, Commission on Aging, Department of Aging. Every county has one.
That's true. And in Maryland, there are 19 area agencies on aging. On the Eastern Shore, there are combined counties. In the central part of the state, each jurisdiction has its own.
And so when I say every county, I mean our viewership in Pennsylvania is supported by one, West Virginia,
that is
Virginia.
correct.
It's federal law.
It is federal law under the Older Americans Act. So every jurisdiction has an area agency on aging that advocates for older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers.
And I think you just said something really important. It doesn't say people of low means, it says all adults.
It does. And especially in Maryland, with the Maryland Access Point program that we have, we advocate for older adults over the age of 50, as well as adults 18 and over who have a disability.
And a lot of these things are very difficult for people to evolve. They retire, they've had an employer-sponsored health plan, and many times that employer-sponsored health plan had no options. You got what you got. But when you retire and all of a sudden you're in the Medicare system, you have lots of options.
There are, more than ever these days. There are supplemental plans that people can choose. There's obviously Medicare when you turn 65, but then there are the employer-sponsored options as well. So it's important to talk with somebody at the area agency on aging to determine what is the best option for you.
And particularly because we have people that are working past 65, They have some events that occur automatically, other events that don't, and you have a staff there of health insurance advocates is to help people figure out how to manage this system.
And I think that's really key because, first of all, area agencies on aging are supposed to offer as much accurate, objective information as possible. And so through our state insurance counseling program, we can offer that information through trained staff as well as trained volunteers to guide people in the direction that is most appropriate for their needs.
And the goal is to look at each single participant to try to figure out what works best for them. And there's a good reason for that because each one of them has a different circumstance.
Every person has different circumstances, has different family issues, different income issues, so it's really important to have a conversation with a trained professional.
Now, you don't have to respond to this, but I find ignorance of the system is an equal opportunity participant, so it doesn't matter what your level of resources, it's a problem.
It is a problem, and so you're right, it doesn't matter what your resources are. Everybody ought to pay attention to what's happening with their situation so that they can make the right decision.
But then you have other things that are really cool. You know, you try to do some congregate stuff, get people engaged, give them an opportunity to participate.
Absolutely. Socialization when you're an older adult is key. You need to get out of the house, you need to hear your own voice, you need to talk with your friends and family, and senior centers allow you to do that. You can have a meal. For those individuals who perhaps can't get out of the house, though, there is a home delivered meal option if you meet certain criteria. But we really encourage people to go to senior centers to participate in, especially in Frederick County, where we have a variety of health screenings, we have exercise options, we have different opportunities that people may enjoy so that they can remain engaged in society and the community.
And getting engaged is really stunningly simple. People look at the building, you have a nice building there, but they don't really realize, pick up the phone call and somebody will help you.
And that's our goal. Our goal is to help people make their best life and do it with as much dignity and with as much compassion as possible.
And of course, you become an access point for many benefits that are out there, and many times people, once again, are not aware that those benefits exist.
And that's why it's important to make the phone call or get on the website and see what is available that will meet your needs.
And one program I always want to mention is the Maryland Prescription Drug Subsidy Program. The belief is by the state is the single most underutilized benefit available to senior citizens, and your people will provide them access to how to get engaged.
And we absolutely will, because there are certain areas of our county that we target because there is some statistics that show that people have not engaged in that particular program. So we really do some focused outreach so that we can reach those people.
Well, Carolyn, if somebody wanted to call your particular agency, how would they get a hold of you?
Very easy number, 301-600-1234.
Oh, I might even remember that. 301-600-1234.
1234.
Carolyn, as always, thanks for taking time to appear.
Thank you for having me.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Come on, Dad, let's go! We're gonna be late! Hurry!
Just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com. If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. I have with me today John Kenney, Adult Protective Services, Washington County Department of Social Services. Welcome to the show, John.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, oftentimes people say, why would I have somebody from the Department of Social Services on health? But actually, we find neglect is a huge problem in terms of dealing with the retirement community.
Yes, it certainly is. We get a lot of referrals from mostly relatives of people who are not taking care of themselves. We also get referrals from doctors' offices and from the hospital, other caregivers, the home health agencies, who are really concerned because the person is not taking very good care of themselves. And sometimes it's related to a lack of resources or a lack of awareness of community services. And sometimes it's that the person is insisting on doing it their way, even though it doesn't really meet their needs.
And unfortunately in this process, our society gives people a great deal of protections. They don't have to worry about walking down the street and being arrested for an inappropriate reason, but also gives them a constitutional right to make bad decisions.
Yes, that's exactly right. I tend to call it freedom to folly. And we all have the ability to make those decisions that aren't really in our best interest long term. A lot of people are doing that for various reasons. One of the reasons is fear. Sometimes people are afraid to contact or to work with the Department of Social Services and thinking that we're going to try to force them into an institutional setting. And in reality, we're trying to keep them out of a nursing home or other institutional setting for as long as possible. And so we're trying to assist in ways to preserve their independence.
Well, I don't want to sound like it's mercenary, but the reality is they can stay at home. It's less cost to the government, not any interest in having somebody someplace else where they might be at risk for having to pay for it.
Well, that's true. It does save taxpayers funds if we can maintain the person in their own home with some services than if they, end up in a facility, and also keeps them from having to use all their resources to pay for care.
One of the things we challenge people with every day is this is kind of a fluid environment. These programs come and go, so it really means that even if you may have talked to somebody a year ago, there might be something out there today that wasn't there then.
That's true. We're always looking for opportunities to provide services to people. The Commission on Aging, for example, is usually writing grants about monthly to try to find some additional funding to increase services to older people in our community. The Department of Social Services is interested in expanding. We now do respite care type services that we weren't able to do in the past, so that's an opportunity in addition to social services to adults or our in-home aid services.
And one of the great challenges here is the lack of resources available for seniors short of a nursing home. And so if they need in-home services or some other type of supervision, they don't need nursing home level of care, you got to work to find those resources.
Yes, you definitely do. Unfortunately, the resources have not kept up with the inflation in cost of care or in the number of people needing that care in our community.
And so I know you've been creative in the last few years in this. You have, for children, you have care for them in terms of foster care and so forth. You actually have a program for seniors as well.
That's true. We have a Project Home program that provides adult foster care to older people and other disabled people. There are 21 care homes in Washington County. We have about 55 people in those homes, and we also help people pay for some things like Holly Place or one of the smaller assisted livings.
And so this is a great challenge, and frankly the entire delivery system has failed to address the fact that for a person being fully independent versus being in a nursing home, there's a gap in services and everybody's scrambling to try to figure out how to manage this.
That is exactly right. The Commission on Aging and the Department of Social Services, Adult Services are really stretching every which way to try to help fill that gap, because we want to keep people in the least restrictive environment as long as possible.
One of the great challenges we have here is, while financial abuse is pretty obvious, one that's not so obvious is self-neglect.
That's true. We're getting an increase in reports for financial exploitation, for probably because banks are now required to, but we do see a lot of self-neglect cases, and the person does have a right to tell us to go away and let them be. We try to coax and encourage and help get them to see that we really are there to try to help them.
John, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the show. Call any Department of Social Services in our viewing area, and they have people there designed to try to help you with these issues.
That's exactly right. Thank you very much.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Thanks to our donors, the Community Foundation is uniquely positioned to help Frederick County with its greatest needs and move our vision of a stronger community forward.
This stronger community includes helping our seniors age with dignity, making Frederick County a great place for all families to raise children, and helping people with substance use disorder.
Working together, we will ensure that Frederick County is forever.
Albright, Crumbacker, Mal & Eitel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today, Sandra Miller, Senior Vice President at the Family Heritage Trust Company. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thanks for inviting me, Michael.
You know, it's kind of funny. When you and I started many years ago, we made a decision that we were going to try to teach the public the meaning of the word fiduciary. And a lot of people thought we were out of our minds, but actually we're seeing advertisements of other people who are fiduciaries today who have also recognized it's an important differentiation.
Yes, I think clients need to know that we're working for them for their best interest. And if we can't work for their best interest, then we shouldn't be in business, because that's what this business is all about, is trust.
All right, so in terms of interacting with the trust company, trust does not mean you have to have a trust.
That's correct.
It describes the relationship. A fiduciary must act in the client's best interest.
That's correct. And I've had a number of clients say, well, what does that mean? And after I explain that we're here to work in your best interest, not just to make you buy something from us because we don't sell product, they really appreciate the fact, and they become very comfortable.
Well, and so fiduciary is an important word because it means you owe a duty to the client, you owe it to them, to their best interest, not to the best interest of the company. Now, in terms of investment advisory, you hold IRA accounts, you do pure investment advisory, and there are trusts, but all three are done on a fiduciary standard.
Yes, that's our mantra. If we are going to advise you in any respect, we have to act as a fiduciary. So if you want us to craft an IRA account for you, or just a regular investment account, much like a brokerage account, or if you want us to be trustee under the terms of your will, all of those items we have to act as a fiduciary in your best interest only.
Any hidden charges?
No, we just charge one annual fee for any of the services that we provide.
Divided by 12, so you don't pay it all at once.
Right, you can rent us for a month, as they say.
And those fees are fully disclosed?
Yes, they're fully disclosed. We have a fee schedule. Clients that maybe don't deal with us yet, but are prospects, often ask, well, let me see your fee schedule, and we're more than willing to do that.
It's the whole basis of being a fiduciary. How can you be acting in somebody's best interest if you're not telling them what you're charging?
Of course, and a lot of times they say, well, do you do this and how much do you charge for that? Or do you do that, how much do you charge for that? And I have to explain to them, well, we charge one fee and you get all of our services.
And that can be very important, as we'll talk about in a few minutes here. But oftentimes we'll have clients come in and say, well, you know, my mutual fund is free.
Oh, of course. That's why those companies stay in business, because they don't charge fees. I'm being facetious, obviously.
One big charity.
Yes, it's one big charity. Mutual funds have fees. You just have to explain and describe where to look for those fees when the clients say they're free. And once they find out that there is something called an expense ratio, that's something that's taken out of the fund that the client is in before the client sees it, then they start looking a little more closely at how they're invested and what they're paying for that investment. And 9 times out of 10, our fee is equivalent to or less than what they're paying in their mutual fund portfolio.
But we occasionally have people say, well, yeah, but I just don't like paying it. I prefer that I not have to see it.
Right. Well, those people maybe like living, you know, in a fantasy world.
Yeah, never land, right? And so the reality of this is that as a fiduciary, you have no product sales, no insurance product sales. Everything is driven by what is in the client's best interest.
That's correct. And oftentimes clients will ask, well, I have this other investment here or that other investment there. And you know, we'll provide a review at no extra charge, and we'll tell them, yes, that seems to be fine, you can keep it the way it is, or no, this is the problem that you're going to have with this. And so we'll advise them good, bad, or indifferent.
And sometimes that might mean a particular investment might be better off left alone for a little while, or maybe a timing of the liquidation of that. So there's a multitude of things, but it's always driven by what's in the client's best interest.
Exactly. And I've had clients call and ask, well, I'm going to be redeeming this particular item because my daughter-in-law doesn't like it. And I have to explain to that client, well, when you redeem it, could be significant tax consequences. So, you know, we try and protect the client's best interest no matter what the daughter-in-law thinks.
Well, and you know, we have the same problem with savings bonds. You know, some of these older savings bonds that are nearing maturity are paying 5.5%, 6%. Well, you can't really replace that anywhere else with that level of security. Ought to be patient on that.
Right, and make sure that you don't redeem it before it pays its interest. And that's another thing with timing. We can help them with that as well.
Sandy, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
My pleasure, Michael.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just as simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.